Okay, friends, so this is a seventh video lecture on middle childhood. In this lecture, I want to talk about some social development. So we've done physical development, cognitive, and now I want to move into social/emotional. Let's start by talking about theory, some social development theory. The first one I want to talk about is Erikson. So you remember Erikson from previous chapters. He is the fella that talked about the life course as having these different crises, that how we have to, like, the infancy was trust versus mistrust. One of them is, oh my gosh, autonomy versus shame, I think it is. And in middle childhood, the crisis is industry versus inferiority. And basically, what it boils down to is a child, or how a child comes through this stage if they feel that they are capable of doing things. So this is a stage of life when a child maybe makes social comparisons to themselves, to their peers, what they are capable of doing, what their peers are capable of doing. So that would be industry. Industry is what I can do, what I do, what I do, what kind of accomplishments I have, versus if I feel inferior because I don't have any of these accomplishments. Then we also have the theory. So the goal here is to feel a sense of industry, to accomplish things so that our social comparison to our peers is positive. Then you have Kohlberg's theory of moral development. And during this stage, or during this period of the life course, middle childhood, we're going through two stages. The first one is the pre-conventional morality, and the second one is the conventional morality. And then in the next chapter, when we get to the topic of adolescence, we'll talk about the third stage. But in this first stage of morality, what it says, what we're motivated by by self-interest, by punishments or rewarding punishments. So we decide what is good, what is right. We make our moral decisions based on if we're going to be punished or if we're not going to be punished. If we're not going to be punished, then it's good. If we are going to be punished, it's bad. The second stage, again, during this middle childhood period, is based on what he called conventional morality, and it is based on concern for approval, or the approval of others, or how will my behaviors affect others. A good action then gets defined by, or something to do again, or if I do something right, or the right choice is, will it lead to approval from others? The bad choice is if it will lead to disapproval of others. So you can see how moral understanding is fairly simple during this stage. During this stage of the life course, this time in childhood. One is punishments or rewards, and the other is, will people approve of me or not? And then as we become older, our moral development, and or the way that we make moral decisions becomes increasingly more complicated and more complex. Okay, so now let's shift gears again. Also discussed in this chapter, again, or in a bit more detail, is the significance of the self. So just to sort of state again, I'm pretty sure that we've talked about these in another chapter. We're going to define self-esteem as the evaluation of my identity, and how a person as a child begins to internalize the appraisal of others. So I will have a positive self-esteem if I have internalized the sense that other people think of me positively. Self-concept is our beliefs about my personal identity and my behavior. So how I conceptualize who I am. Am I a good person? That's probably too abstract for this stage of life, but how I conceptualize what kind of person I am, what things I'm capable of. And then self-efficacy. This is an important concept when in middle childhood, because we'll talk more about self-efficacy as something that motivates children. What we mean by efficacy is the ability to affect the environment. So like if you were to take that word apart, you see the root word there of affect. So the belief that I am capable of doing something, that I am capable of affecting my life, or that I, the self, can affect the world. That's what we mean by self-efficacy. The significance of self-efficacy, and this is not just true in early and middle childhood, but this is also true throughout the life course. But again, this is a stage of internalizing and development of the self, is self-efficacy, the belief that I can do something about the world, can turn into a motivator. And what we mean by motivator is something, a definition of motivation is, oh, phooey, it was right there, is the motivation is goal-directed behavior. Goal-directed behavior. So self-efficacy is when I have internalized belief that I can act in a way towards meeting my goals. When we are intrinsically motivated, and notice there the I in intrinsically motivated, it means I will engage in goal-directed behavior because of something internal, because there's a reward that I have for doing this action. Maybe I enjoy it, maybe I feel pride, whatever, but there's something inside me that makes me do this thing or motivates me to do this thing. Extrinsic motivation, with an E and an X, as in external, exterior, is I do this thing because I'm expecting something from outside. So maybe I want a reward, maybe I want to avoid a punishment, but I don't do an action. My actions are not because of something inherent in me. My actions are because of something external. Maybe I fear punishment, maybe I expect a reward, maybe I want my parents' approval, but it's external. And as you might be able to speculate, the most powerful, consistently effective kind of motivation is a motivation that is internal. When I do something because of something inside me. Also discussed in this chapter, and I have included a little video about it because it is so critical, I think, especially when we talk about child development. But this is also a useful thing to understand because this can inhibit adults as well, is this phenomenon of learned helplessness. So helplessness, right? Helplessness, the idea that I can't do anything, that I am unable to help myself. The idea of learned helplessness says that I have learned to believe that I'm incapable of doing anything to affect myself. And in previous chapters or in previous lectures, I'm pretty certain I've talked about the power or the importance of providing opportunities for children to be successful. And when we give children opportunities to do something, to put on their own clothes, to pour themselves their own milk in their cereal, to have a chore and complete that chore successfully, when we give them opportunities to affect the world, and then we ensure or not ensure, then we facilitate their success, they learn that they can do things, that they can control. But when we do the opposite and we don't create opportunities for them to be successful, or every time they attempt something, we shame them or we discourage them or we correct them. Well, here, let me do that. You didn't do that correctly. They learn that they cannot do something. They learn to be helpless. And that's the key. This is a really important idea because you'll notice, and there's a video I've linked up to give you some classic research, but you'll notice, she's in this cage and clearly she can get out of the cage. The door is open. But somewhere along the way, she has learned that she can't get out of that cage. And when we internalize this, we stop trying. We have learned to become helpless. We've learned that we cannot do anything to control what happens to us. I'm going to stop here because it's at 9 minutes and I have 2 slides to wrap up the rest of this chapter.